welcome to the deep dive. So if you're tuning in, chances are you've put in the hard yards with English. You're likely at that C1 level, which is, let's be honest, really impressive. You handle complex chats, you read difficult stuff, you sound fluent.
Absolutely.
But, and here's the kicker, you might also be feeling a bit, well, stuck.
The plateau.
Exactly. That frustrating point where you're thinking, okay, I've come this far, now what?
Is it worth pushing even harder?
Right. Is that massive extra effort really going to pay off? What's actually next?
And that feeling that what's next, that's exactly what we're diving into today. Because, look, this isn't just about adding a few more idioms, right?
No.
Our mission here is to show you that the jump from C1 to, let's say, real deep fluency, whether that's C2 or just a much more confident C1, it's not just about getting incrementally better. It's a fundamental transformation. It really is.
A transformation. So you mean that changes things more deeply?
Totally. It's like unlocking doors you didn't even know were there. Unseen doors.
Okay, I like that. Unseen doors.
Yeah. And each one opens into a room of opportunity that you just couldn't access before. Maybe couldn't even imagine.
So this deep dive is kind of like the map to find those rooms.
Exactly. Consider it your map. We're going to explore the really profound shifts, professional, personal, that become possible.
And you've got real stories to back this up.
Oh, yeah. Real-world examples, plus actionable strategies, things you can actually do to find those keys.
Okay, let's get into it. We always hear English called the global language.
Right. It's almost a cliche at this point.
It is, isn't it? But you're saying for us, at this advanced stage, we need to think deeper.
We really do. Because it's more than just the common tongue. Think of it as the underlying operating system for global progress.
The operating system?
Yeah. Or like the source code for how international collaboration actually happens now in the 21st century.
That's a big claim. How is it so different from, say, Latin back in the day or French diplomacy? They were global languages too, weren't they?
They were, but the scope and the depth today are just unprecedented. Latin and French were dominant in certain regions or fields.
Right.
But English now, I mean, look at science. Something like 95% of papers are published in English. It's created this single, massive global conversation.
And it's not just science.
No way. Aviation, international finance, tech development, they all run on English. And the internet, our collective digital brain, essentially.
Overwhelmingly English, yeah.
It really is.
So connecting that operating system idea back to the C1 learner, what's the real practical difference between being competent, like C1, and truly mastering it?
Okay, this is key. It's the difference between being a spectator of global progress.
Just watching.
Yeah, just watching from the sidelines, versus having the potential to actually be a participant, a real player.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about a major scientific breakthrough. You could read a summary translated into your language, right?
That's the gist.
Or you could read the original paper. Understand the nuances, the methodology, the precise data. See it like the scientists do.
Okay, I see. Direct access.
Or imagine watching an interview with a top CEO. Dubbed or subtitled, you get the information. But understanding their exact word choice, their tone, even their hesitations.
That tells you so much more.
It's a completely different level of understanding. That's the kind of unfiltered access that mastery gives you.
And I guess this really hits home in your career.
Absolutely. Professionally, this is where the transformation is often most visible.
Because at C1, you can probably do your job in English. You're competent.
You can function. Yeah. You meet the requirements.
But pushing beyond C1, that's about something else.
It's about influence, leadership. It opens the door to a completely different caliber of career. You move from just having a role to actively shaping things.
Okay, let's make this concrete. You mentioned real stories.
Let's talk about Priya. Brilliant software architect, based in Bangalore. Technically amazing. Working for a big multinational, great within the Indian team. But she hit a ceiling internationally.
Why? What was the back?
Those international video calls. She understood the tech specs, no problem, but the rest. The subtle cultural cues, the really fast idioms, the unspoken business context.
The stuff between the lines.
Exactly. She could answer a direct question, but she couldn't, build rapport easily or challenge an assumption politely but firmly or articulate a big, compelling vision for her project.
That sounds incredibly frustrating for someone so skilled technically.
It was. She felt like she wasn't showing her true capabilities.
So what was her unseen door? What did she need to unlock?
She realized, crucially, it wasn't about learning more grammar rules.
Right.
So she invested heavily in targeted improvement, focused on communication dynamics.
Yeah.
She listened constantly to American business podcasts, analyzed presentations by top tech leaders, even worked with a corporate communication coach.
So not just language, but delivery.
Precisely. Practicing intonation for confidence, learning how to use storytelling to persuade, even using humor strategically to ease tension in difficult discussions.
That's advanced stuff. And the result?
Pretty dramatic. Within about a year, she wasn't just participating in those international meetings, she was leading them.
Wow.
Confidently debating product roadmaps, negotiating effectively with senior people from other countries, presenting her ideas with real clarity, real charisma.
And professionally.
Huge leap. Got promoted to oversee a distributed team across 3 continents, a role she literally said was unthinkable before she made that push in her communication skills.
That's a powerful example. Does this kind of ceiling exist in academia too? Or is it different?
Oh, very similar dynamics, just maybe a different flavor. Let's take Dr. Kenji Tanaka, a biologist in Osaka.
Okay.
Doing absolutely groundbreaking research on cellular aging, stuff with the potential to really change how we understand diseases of old age.
It sounds important.
Hugely. But for years, his amazing findings were basically stuck within the Japanese scientific community. Why? Published in Japanese.
Exactly. Japanese journals presented at domestic conferences. His global impact was minimal, despite the quality of the science.
So, world-class work, but locked out of the main global conversation. What did he do?
He knew the score. To get his work noticed, to get into journals like Nature or Science, he needed top-tier English.
More than just translation, I guess.
Much more. It meant crafting a really compelling narrative for his research, anticipating the critiques from international peers, defending his methods with absolute precision. That requires C1 plus fluency, easily.
How did he tackle that? Sounds daunting.
A rigorous self-study. He didn't just read papers. He analyzed hundreds for their structure, their rhetorical strategies. He used shadowing.
We'll talk more about that later.
Yep. To nail the intonation and rhythm of academic English. Joined online forums to practice articulating really complex ideas, debating methodology.
So a very focused effort. Did it work? It did. His first submission to a major international journal got accepted after revisions, sure, but the feedback specifically highlighted the clarity of his writing.
That must have felt good.
Huge validation. And now, he's a regular contributor to the big journals. He collaborates internationally with teams in the US, in Germany. He gets invited to speak everywhere.
The science was always there.
The science was brilliant, but the advanced English proficiency was the catalyst. It's what unlocked its global impact. Really shows you how vital that level is.
Incredible. Okay, one more story, Marco. The eco-tour guide in the Amazon.
Yeah, Marco's story is really inspiring. Deep knowledge of the rainforest, incredibly passionate about conservation.
Based where?
Down in the Amazon basin. For years, he guided Brazilian and Portuguese tourists, sharing his love for the place.
But he had bigger dreams.
Much bigger. He saw tourism as a potential engine for conservation. But to make that happen, he needed to connect with international scientists, with policymakers, with philanthropists who could fund projects.
And that meant English.
Absolutely. And not just basic English. He needed to discuss really complex ecological concepts like the symbiosis between a specific fig tree and a wasp.
Yeah.
Or explain the difficult economic pressures driving deforestation, the nuances of indigenous land rights. That's high-level stuff.
How did he even start in the middle of the Amazon?
It was tough, a slow, hard journey. He'd study between his guiding treks, used patchy satellite internet to download ecology podcasts.
Resourceful.
Very. He even offered free tours to English-speaking backpackers just to get conversation practice. Started a blog, writing about the rainforest in English authentically, if maybe a bit clumsily at first.
Did people find it?
Slowly, yeah. It was heartfelt. And as his English got better, his whole operation transformed.
How so?
He started attracting a different clientele. University research groups needing logistical help, documentary film crews, people from international conservation NGOs.
So he wasn't just a guide anymore.
No, his C1 level English allowed him to become a consultant, a fixer, an educator on a global stage right from the Amazon. And the best part, his small tour business grew into this respected social enterprise. It now helps fund a local reforestation project and even a school for indigenous kids.
Wow.
For Marco, English wasn't just communication. It was literally the tool he used to build a better future.
These professional stories are incredible, but you also mentioned personal transformations.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's not just about work, is it? Pushing your English further enriches your inner world, too. It broadens how you experience culture, how you connect with ideas.
You talked about unfiltered access to culture. What does that mean in practice?
Well, think about watching a film. At C1, subtitles are probably fine. You follow the story.
Yeah,
But with deeper fluency, suddenly you get the really subtle wordplay in Shakespeare. You appreciate the rapid-fire, culturally specific jokes in something like a Tarantino movie.
Or the silences in a show like Succession mean something more.
Exactly. That deliberate ambiguity in the dialogue. You realize subtitles, however good, are always a filter. Removing that filter lets the art hit you directly, with all its layers intact.
I definitely felt that. Trying to read certain authors in the original. It's like a different book sometimes.
It absolutely is. You move beyond the graded readers or simplified texts into the glorious, sometimes challenging, but ultimately way more rewarding world of original English literature.
Cackling Virginia Woolf or David Foster Wallace.
War poetry like Seamus Heaney. Or even brilliant nonfiction like Yuval Noah Harari's *Sapiens*. Reading it in English, you know you're getting the author's exact thought process, the precise nuance, nothing lost in translation.
And music too, right? It changes how you hear lyrics.
Oh, totally. Suddenly it's not just background sound. You can appreciate the intricate storytelling in Bob Dylan's songs, or the complex rhymes and social commentary in Kendrick Lamar's work.
Or the raw emotion in Joni Mitchell.
Yeah. It turns music into a much richer experience. A story, a poem, a conversation you're fully part of.
And this unfiltered access, it applies to the online world too.
Massively. The internet is this vast universe, and English is overwhelmingly its main language. With advanced skills, you're not stuck in the translated corners anymore. You can dive into these super niche Reddit communities, watch those incredibly detailed video essays on YouTube on any topic imaginable, listen to podcasts where it feels like you're right there in the room with global experts.
You become a participant online too, not just scrolling past.
Exactly. You can engage, debate, contribute. It's a whole different level of interaction.
And you mentioned something about language actually changing how we think.
Yeah, it's fascinating. There's this idea, linguistic relativity, sometimes called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, usually the weaker version.
Which suggests?
That the language you think in influences how you think. It doesn't totally determine it, but it shapes it.
So thinking in English gives you what?
It can give you a new set of metaphors to understand the world, different ways to structure an argument, maybe just a fresh perspective on problems. It can genuinely boost creativity and problem solving, even empathy, perhaps.
Okay, so we've established the why. The transformation is huge, professionally and personally. But how? If you're at that C1 plateau, feeling stuck, progress feels slow.
It does feel slow, and that's the frustrating part. The easy wins are gone. Progress isn't weekly anymore. It's measured in months, maybe longer.
So how do you approach it? You said it's a new stage.
Exactly. You need to reframe it. You're shifting gears from very conscious, effortful study.
Like grammar drills and vocab lists.
Yeah, towards more subconscious acquisition, letting the language sink in more naturally. And the absolute key to this stage is massive, compelling input.
Compelling input.
Meaning you need to surround yourself with English that you genuinely want to consume, stuff you find interesting, engaging, fun.
So the focus shifts from study time to just living in the language more.
Precisely. Read books you love, listen to podcasts on topics you're passionate about, watch shows you actually enjoy. The goal is to get so absorbed in the content that you almost forget you're practicing English.
Find your islands of interest, as you put it.
Find your islands. If it's history, maybe Dan Carlin's hardcore history. If it's tech, maybe stratechery. Fantasy fan, tackle Lord of the Rings in the original. Whatever hooks you. Make it a daily habit, but make it enjoyable.
That makes sense. Passive absorption is key. But are there active things you should still be doing?
Oh, definitely. That passive input is the foundation, but you need to build on it with deliberate practice. One technique I always recommend at this stage is shadowing.
Right. You mentioned that with Dr. Tanaka. How does it work?
It's simple but powerful. Find a short audio clip, maybe a minute or two, of a native speaker whose accent and rhythm you like.
Okay.
Listen once. Then play it again and try to speak along with them in real time. Mimic their pace, their stress, their intonation as closely as you possibly can.
Sounds awkward.
It feels super awkward at first, but it's incredibly effective for improving your prosody, the musicality of the language. It helps you sound more natural, not just understand better. It's a game changer for fluency.
Okay, shadowing. What else? Vocabulary is still important, but maybe differently.
Totally different. At C1, it's not just about knowing a word's definition. It's about understanding its network. I call it the word web method.
Word web?
Yeah. When you learn a new, useful word, don't just log the definition, build a little web around it. What words does it usually hang out with its collocations?
Like make a decision, not do a decision.
Exactly. What's its origin, its etymology? Can be interesting. What are its synonyms and antonyms? And crucially, what are the subtle differences between them? When would you use thin versus slim versus slender?
Got it. Deeper understanding.
And the most important spoke on that web. Write your own sentence using the word, but make it relevant to your life, your work, your opinions. That makes it stick.
Good tip. And what about writing? Just keep writing.
Keep writing, yes, but practice deliberately. Don't just write randomly. Pick one specific thing to focus on each week.
Like what?
Maybe one week your goal is just using more varied sentence beginnings. Avoid starting every sentence with the or I. The next week, focus on replacing weak verbs like get or be with stronger, more precise ones. The week after, maybe experiment with rhetorical questions or parallel structures.
A targeted practice.
Exactly. A blog or a journal is perfect for this. Focused, deliberate practice is how you polish your skills at this level.
Okay, this is all great practical advice. For people wanting to dive in right now, you mentioned some specific resources, films, books, podcasts.
Yeah, we put together a few suggestions tailored for the C1 Plus push. For film and TV, if you want fast-paced, smart dialogue, try The West Wing or Succession. Really good for catching nuance in conversation.
Okay, what about British English?
For that, maybe The Crown or Downton Abbey. You get that sense of class, understatement, formal language.
And for something more modern American?
Pulp Fiction or The Social Network. Very stylized, quick dialogue, great for catching modern idioms and rhythm.
Good list. And books. You mentioned some challenging ones.
Yeah, if you want to stretch your reading. The Remains the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, fantastic for understanding subtle prose and an unreliable narrator.
Oh, I love that book.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Or for something structurally complex, Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. It's a workout, but rewarding.
And nonfiction.
Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, just fascinating content, but also really well-written, clear, compelling, great vocabulary.
Perfect. Lastly, podcasts. Great for that immersion factor.
Definitely. This American Life is just superb storytelling. Plus, you hear a huge range of American accents and voices.
A classic.
For long-form narrative and incredibly rich vocabulary, hardcore history with Dan Carlin. His episodes are epic, but you learn so much.
He really paints a picture.
He does. And for hearing high-level, unscripted, natural conversation between experts, try something like the All In podcast. They talk tech, business, science. It's messy, real talk, great exposure.
That's a fantastic set of resources. So wrapping up this journey from C1, it's tough. That plateau is real.
It is demanding, no doubt. That final climb can feel like the steepest part of the mountain.
But the view from the top.
The rewards are honestly immeasurable. It really isn't just about ticking a box on your CV or resume.
No.
It's about fundamentally expanding the possibilities of your life, opening up your world.
Those unseen doors you talked about.
Yeah.
They're waiting.
They really are. Behind one might be that career you never dreamed was possible.
Or connecting deeply with someone from a totally different background.
Yeah. Or finally understanding that complex piece of art or that scientific paper. Or maybe just understanding yourself a little better through the lens of another language.
Well, the message is, don't get discouraged by the plateau.
Embrace it. See it as the final, crucial stage of your transformation. Dive in.
Live in the language.
Exactly.
Right.
Use it actively. Don't just treat it as a tool you pick up and put down. Make it a new space you inhabit.
Because the story of your life, it's still being written.
Yeah.
And mastering English gives you the power.
To write that next, really exciting chapter. And to write it in a language the whole world can understand.